Hey guys, Parfax here, and today we are starting a new series. We're going to call it Tier List Tuesday. All right, let's get started. All right, we're here on Tier Maker, and you know I love to do tier list videos. Realistically, they're more for fun, and today will be nothing short of fun. So we are ranking the worst skills in New World. Now, we did have one little preface, as I did want to make sure I have at least one skill for each weapon. There are a couple extra skills from a few weapons. Now, if you use these, it doesn't mean you are a bad player, and it doesn't mean that, anything other than maybe these skills need a little bit of a buff. So don't take offense to anything. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are the skills you just refuse to use because they are just so bad. Now, we are in a future video, we're going to go over some things that I hope New World does. We're going to talk a little bit about hopefully where I project New World to go. We're going to talk about things like what skills should change, maybe way crafting systems could change. So watch out for those. But think every Tuesday we're going to be doing some form of tier list. We're going to make some fun, some more serious. So get ready for it. And the first one is a lot of fun. And the first weapon we're going to talk about is the fire staff. Now, I really debated about putting both these on the list, but the first one we have here is Meteor. If you guys didn't know, in alpha, this ability was extremely oppressive. You may not think that way because of how bad it is right now, but this ability was absolutely oppressive and they nerfed it into the ground. Honestly, this thing's just not usable. Now, we can go ahead and explain how we have this tier list set up. We have usable, not bad, bad, not usable, and please delete. If we put something in the please delete category, it's not because we realistically just say, hey, take it away. Honestly, we just want the skill to have a rework. Anything above that probably could get just some numerical changes to help the skill out, but that is kind of how we have it situated. So Meteor, it's essentially something that roots you in place. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. The perk for it is absolutely horrible. 80% damage on the first tiny little tick is almost nothing for damage. So hopefully they can make this skill usable in the future. At least should have some form of viability. It's a pretty iconic skill for any type of fire mage in almost any game. It's got some big meteor. We have Pillar of Fire, which kind of sort of acts like a meteor, but I want to see this skill get some use because I love Meteor skills. And next we have Incinerate. Now, we're going to put this into, we want to put it not bad or usable. We will put it in the, we're going to put it in the usable category. Now, this is extremely, now we're going to put it in the not bad category. It's not quite the usable. It's very situational. I have had a build, if you go look, it's been a little while, but I did a Void Gauntlet fire staff video. That was really cool. We used Scream to essentially set up the big incinerate damage. This ability does a lot of damage. People don't use it anymore because it's pretty easy to dodge. It takes a lot of setup to do. But honestly, it's a lot of fun to use. I maybe just wish they had the wind up on it was a little bit quicker. And I think if they did that, this ability would actually be really fun. You could use it more defensively or offensively. So I'm hoping this skill gets a little bit of a buff because I want to go back to using it again. All right, next, now I'm going to say I know the least about the life staff, but from what I've been told, Divine's Embrace here on the life staff is essentially the worst skill on the life staff. And the reason for this is because Light's Embrace is strictly just a better single target heal. This was supposed to be kind of the big burst heal, but it doesn't really stack up to Light's Embrace just because you can get a bunch of buffs, and Light's Embrace just tends to overpower this one. So we're going to put this one definitely in the not bad category because it's not a bad skill. There's just essentially a better one in the better side of the tree. So I would hope that maybe they give this a little bit of a numerical value, a little bit of an easier heal to pop off. And honestly, if you're using this, it's not that big of a deal. It is kind of still a nice little blanket heal, but just kind of gets outshined by the life staff. And like I said, we did want to have an ability for each weapon, but I'm not a life staff main, so take that for what you will. Next, we have probably, I want to say, not my least favorite skill in the game, but if you're using this in PvP, I'm just going to kill you and teabag you. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I mean, I do teabag every once in a while, but Wind chill is a funny ability. We're going to put it under the please delete category. This is essentially the flamethrower for the ice gauntlet, but it basically does no damage. It pushes you back a little bit. It's not a toggle ability like flamethrower. It's just overall nothing about this skill is good. It's kind of funny to watch somebody use it. And I think there's an artwork when you load into the game of actually somebody using wind chill, which is kind of funny considering it's basically one of the worst skills, if not the worst skill in the game. It's kind of funny, but I'm hoping they do complete rework on this ability. But let's be honest, Ice Gauntlet does not need any more buffs. Next item we have in the list is a baleful tether. Now, honestly, we're going to put it in the usable category. I honestly don't think it's that bad. We did have to put a void gauntlet skill in here. It's essentially like a little weakened and empower. It's not bad for bosses in PvP. PvE. But in PvP, it's not very good. But I honestly just think it's the worst of the abilities in the Void Gauntlet tree. They did a pretty good job of making the Void Gauntlet, and most of the skills are at least usable in situations. I think the right side of the tree is definitely more of like a PvE side of the tree, but I like it. It's not bad. It's not the greatest. We're just going to put it in the usable category because I can see people using it in maybe like a PvE scenario. Next, we have Shield Rush, and again, we needed the skill. I mean, some people may have said Whirling Blade, but Whirling Blade is a nice little DPS skill with a little bit of cooldown reduction on it, so it's honestly not a bad skill. And we're going to put Shield Rush into the not bad category. I don't think it's as good as Soul Tether, but honestly, it's not very good. The reason why it's not good is just because the animation for it is really slow. It's hard to use it in PvP. It's hard to use it in PvE. Honestly, there's just so many better skills to use on the sword and shield class that this skill probably should just never be used. You can use, the gap closer, which is I suggest in like the PvP or PvE sense, and obviously PvP sense. There's no reason to run it in PvP either. Now, I've seen people use it. It's not like the most terrible skill in the world, but when it comes to the sword and shield, I definitely think it is the worst ability on the sword and shield. Next, we have one of my personal favorite weapons is the rapier, and we have flourish and finish. We're definitely going to put this on the not bad side. Now, I will possibly have a build coming up using this. It's going to be, I won't spoil it, but it's going to be an interesting little build. If you don't know how this skill works because you've never seen it used, essentially how you use this skill is you're going to use Tondo to stack up 3 bleeds, and you're going to use this to blow up those bleeds to do quite a bit of damage. Honestly, it's a very fun skill to use. It's kind of a nice, fun little single target explosion to really capitalize on the amount of bleeds you're getting. It's not a bad skill by any means. It's not quite maybe up there with like Tether because it's realistically not that much damage. It's not bad, but it's still a very fun skill, and I can honestly see if you want to make the case that this should be definitely in the usable category. Next, we have social distance. Social distancing. This is the COVID-19 hatchet ability. And honestly, this is the please delete category. Now, maybe you can make an argument that it's in the not usable category because essentially almost the entire right side of the tree of hatchet is completely bad. Now, the only reason why I don't have the other 2 in this list is because at least rending throw can be used in PvE to rend bosses, and infected throw can be used to, well, infect the enemy to get a little bit of heal debuff. Honestly, they all 3 could be on this list. They're not really that good. I do use rending throw though in PvE, which is part of the reason why I didn't put it on this list. If we need a little bit extra rend, I will do that. But honestly, social distancing is everything you don't want to do as a hatchet user. Now, maybe if the throwing side was pretty good, that this might not be bad, but even then, the distance you get knocked back is pretty low. You throw a hatchet for 25 meters forward and dodge backwards. The dodge is very small. It does do a nice little chunk of damage and slows the target, but honestly, this ability is just bad most of the time with the hatchet the way it is currently set up. You never want to go backwards. You always want to go forwards. Next, we have Cyclone, and we're just going to put this up in the usable category. Now, do I like this ability? Not particularly. I don't think it really synergizes very well with this spear, but honestly, it's not a bad ability. It's a little bit extra damage if you need somebody to, get off you a little bit. Maybe you need a knockback and so you can then throw your javelin. That's fine. Honestly, you should probably, you could definitely put this in the not usable category solely because the spear has so many good abilities. You should not be using this, but honestly, it is not very bad. And if this was in maybe some of the other trees, it might even be usable. Next, we have the great axe, and first we're going to have execute, and this we're just going to put in the bad category. Now, you can make a case that in PvP, this isn't bad, but it's got a very high cooldown. It's got a pretty good windup on anything that is very fast. This is going to miss most of the time. On bosses, it's not horrible, but you're giving up a lot from the other abilities in the great axe tree to run an ability that you can basically only use on bosses. That has a very high cooldown. Honestly, if they made this instant cast, I don't think, because if you don't know about this ability, it takes a while for you to actually execute it. You kind of jump up in the air, you swing your great axe above your head and then slam the ground. It's got a pretty big windup, kind of suffers from the same thing as incinerate. I think if they sped up these animations, both of those abilities would actually be usable in PvP and PvE. And then we have whirlwind, and we're just going to put in the not usable category. You could argue this should go in the please delete category, but I think a whirlwind type of ability should be good on the great axe, but the damage ramp up for whirlwind is way too high. It should tick faster, it should tick harder, and it should be a pretty good AoE ability for PvE, maybe not necessarily PvP, but honestly, it misses the marks on all of those. Next, we have Mighty Gavel, and honestly, this could be easily not on this list, but like I said, we wanted to put at least one ability for each weapon, and honestly, this ability is not bad. We're gonna put it in the usable category. This should probably get some grit. If this had grit, you could probably see this in PvP and PvE. You do see this in PvE every once in a while if you want to go that the side of the tree to do a little bit more DPS with the Warhammer. So we're going to put it up there in the usable category. We're not going to talk about it a whole lot because it's not honestly a bad skill, especially if you get the ultimate on the Juggernaut side of the tree. But it's kind of a fun ability. We just wanted to put one from each weapon on here. I mean, Armor Breaker's really good. You could maybe argue Clear Out should be here, but it's going to be hard for me to put an ability with that big of a CC. It should be maybe on the not usable because people, use it in the wrong situations and kind of frustrate you. But honestly, no ability from the Warhammer should probably be in here. Next, we have Splinter Shot with the bow, and you guys know that I'm a big bow fanatic, and we're going to put it on the bad. Now, the only reason why we're putting it on the bad, honestly, you know what? We're actually going to put it in the please delete. Now, I typically like these type of abilities, but I think this skill just needs a rework. The spread on this is pretty bad. The damage on it's pretty bad. There's a lot of things about this are just bad. I want them to make it to where you shoot out a ton more arrows, but it doesn't go out and then split. There is a little bit of a way to kind of cheese this. I don't know if it's still in the game, but it has the way to, you can essentially almost one-shot somebody with this skill if you get it off correctly. Sort of a lot harder to hit Ice Spike, but with the bow. And it also has one of the better perks. It has Empowering on it. So I would love it if they just make it to where all the arrows came out of your bow from the very beginning and completely spread out that way, but make it a bunch, maybe even make it like chain off enemies. Just make it a big AoE spell that's out in front of you. Then I think this ability would be absolutely great. It doesn't have to be great in PvP. As long as it's got some nice PvE aspect for it, I would just absolutely love this ability. Next, we have traps from the musket. Now, I'm not the biggest musket player in the world. I haven't played it the most, but this has been in a few little one-shot combos. I've seen that along with Sticky Bomb. The rest of the other abilities in the tree are essentially just pumping up your auto attacks, making them a little bit more powerful. So when it comes to trap, it is so easily dodgeable. The range on it's pretty short. Honestly, there's nothing about this ability that's very good. When someone throws it out, you can easily get around it. I don't remember the last time I've been in a trap. The only time that I have been in a trap is when I've been CC'd essentially by like a riposte from a rapier. Then sometimes they'll drop back, they'll hit the trap, they'll hit the sticky bomb, and then they'll try to one-shot me from there. Honestly, I'm going to put out a video about how I think the musket should be reworked eventually. And I think it's going to start with the right side of the tree. So we're going to put traps on just the not bad side of the tree, because it is usable and it has its cases if you want to do like that one shot type of gameplay, but honestly, it's not that great. Last, but certainly not least, we have the net shot. So when it comes to the net shot, this is for the blunderbuss. Now, it is very premature to be putting anything on this list, but when it comes to the blunderbuss, this is the ability that, since talking to people and myself, has been the least appealing. This is a ability that you can shoot out. It puts a little slow on a target, and that's about it. Honestly, it's not that great of ability. We're just going to put it in the bad category. You can use it. I can definitely see a case where someone wants to kind of play just the left side of the tree, get that little net shut off, but it's really not that great. And definitely could see maybe a little bit of a tweak on it, but it's still really new, and this could definitely somehow be the most OP ability in the game. But I want to put a skill from every weapon in the game on here, so that if whatever your favorite weapon is, whatever your least favorite weapon is, it's got a spot on the list. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tier list video. Let me know in the comment section down below where I went right, where I went wrong. Let me know what musket ability should have been on here instead of trap. Probably maybe stopping power, maybe power shot. Who knows? Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where I went wrong with each one of these abilities. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.